Yo, what's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. I'm your host, Eric Triple E. Engel. You may know me as the former producer for the Murph and Mac Morning Show on KMBR. And big question today, can the offense keep humming against the Seattle Seahawks this weekend in a showdown for the #1 overall seed in the NFC?
Hey, I'm Dwayne Boyd, four-time Super Bowl champion, and my thing is, can the 49ers offense control the ball enough to keep Seattle off the field? And it's going to come down to an offensive, defensive game plan, because the 49ers offense is going to have to save the 49ers defense, because it hasn't been looking all that strong since the second game of the season. So it's going to be a game to watch and a game for the 49er people to show up and make a lot of noise.
You can just feel the skepticism in Dwayne's voice. Can a team that plays bad defense win the Super Bowl?
We'll find out today on the Locked On 49ers Squad Show.
To all the faithful, it's the 49ers Squad. Everything San Francisco 49ers every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from Levi's Stadium. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. For those faithful to the Bay, the 49ers Squad Show starts now.
Hey, what's up, everyone? This is the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. Thanks to everyone for tuning in to another episode here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Make sure you are subscribed, however you're getting the show, whether it's on the podcast version or on the YouTube channel. And today's show is sponsored by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. And if you don't already have a ticket for Saturday's matchup, go to Gametime right now, because that's going to be, Levi's is going to be off the hook, man. Like, it's going to be so loud out there, and it's going to be obviously a battle for all the marbles. The Seahawks coming in one game ahead of the San Francisco 49ers, but if the 49ers win and the two teams finish with the same record, the 49ers obviously would own the tiebreaker and can hold down the #1 overall seed in the NFC West. So a lot of things at stake for the 49ers this weekend. And I want to start with the offense, because that's kind of what's been dictating 49er land lately. I mean, which is weird. That's not really what we're used to here. I feel like the last several years where the team's been in contention to win a championship, it's been the defense that has primarily been the driving force, with Kyle Shanahan making the offense look a little prettier, a little bit of lipstick on a pig type situations with Jimmy G at quarterback, and you had some playmakers, but overall, the 49ers right now, this team looks very, very, very different than it has in the past. You got the offense just kind of carrying the whole team, and it's Brock Purdy at the helm. So, very generic question to start us off, Brian. Can he keep doing it? Can Brock keep doing what he's doing and just dragging that defense along behind him and drag them all the way to the #1 overall seed in the NFC?
Phenomenal. I love watching Brock Purdy. He's playing the best football he's played in the NFL, and it's so fun to watch, and seeing how him and Kyle Shanahan together are putting together game plans and executing those game plans. It's so fun to watch. And it's not fluky at all. He's a really good quarterback, and things happen. Things are going the best. I think opponents matter as well. Can he keep that going? Are they going to score 42 points against the Seattle Seahawks? I would say very unlikely that they do that. But will they play good offensive football? I think they will. And so I think that we know who Kyle Shanahan is, and everyone in the world agrees how good he is. I think it's hard for some folks to agree how good Brock Purdy is, but I think we know, the folks that have watched him week in and week out know how good he is. We know with the guts he possesses. We know how good he is anticipating in the way he throws, which is the important aspect of NFL football. It might not be the tallest, biggest arm quarterback. He might look like he just got his driver's license, and I think people hold that against him sometimes. By the way, can we get like a personal assistant, somebody to help him? Like, does he need a beard? Is it a hairstyle? What does Brock Purdy need for people to take him more seriously? He's a little too clean cut in a way, and so I wonder if maybe as he progresses throughout his NFL career, that'll start to change, and then people will treat him differently. But Man, it's so fun to watch the offense operate right now without Brandon Ayuk, right? Even last week without Trent Williams and George Kittle, and you wouldn't even know it. You wouldn't know it. It's insane. And so they're operating on such a high level, and I can't wait to continue to watch that throughout the playoffs. Again, 42 points won't happen in week 18. So the defense is going to have to do a little bit of something here, but nobody in the world should be shocked that Brock Purdy is a good quarterback and facilitates the offense, and that Kyle Shanahan knows how to put together a game plan.
You say that, yet there's so many people who still are. I mean, I feel like the national media is like starting to come around on Brock Purdy. I think this is the most praise I've ever heard him get in his career from the national media, for sure. I mean, it's not too often you're seeing, daytime sports talk shows actually have good things to say about Brock Purdy, but last couple of weeks, that's a lot of what you've been seeing. And I think as far as, the swaggo meter for Brock Purdy, you didn't think the Dougie moved it at all? Like he's been hitting the Dougie after his touchdowns. That's not making him more endearing to the national media. He's still
because when it comes to the Dougie, speaking of driver, I didn't have a driver's license when people started doing the Dougie. He might have to update that a little bit. An old soul, maybe Brock Purdy is. I don't know, Dwayne. You're hip. What's the dance that Brock Purdy needs to pull out for people to take him seriously?
I don't know. He needs to go. He's not going on Dancing with the Stars because I don't think he's got very good moves when it comes down to dancing. And, and you think about it too. How many quarterbacks you ever seen dance? Joe Montana never danced. I never seen him dance. Dan Marino, he was too slow to dance. Come on,
he had terrible feet. He wasn't dancing. He didn't dance at his own wedding.
Lamar dances sometimes after he gets in. Lamar will hit you with a little shimmy.
Well, a little. That's about it. But he's now Brock Purdy then turned into the dancing quarterback. But he got a. What do you think? If you had to grade his moves on a scale of 1 to 10, what do you get those dance moves?
Well, you kind of said it right there. If quarterbacks can't dance, then he's a 10 out of 10.
Exactly.
Hey, as long as he's better than the Mike Gesicki gritty, which I think is not a very high bar to clear,
Yeah.
and then I think he's doing okay. But for Brock, I think he's just. It's so impressive to watch what he's doing, and it's really hard to appreciate it unless you're like a hardo that's watching every game until these last couple of weeks, until you see the gaudy numbers, because you don't really notice what he's working with or how he's hitting these routes in stride and just where he's putting the ball and how the placement leads to some of this, yards after the catch type stuff. And it was that way even when you had Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk and all these guys who were, yak monsters, and you had the yak bros going and all that. Like a lot of that was predicated on Brock Purdy putting the ball in the right place. How often do we see Jimmy Garoppolo throw a ball to an open receiver and the throw is just terrible, but the guy's so wide open that he catches it anyways, but then he doesn't really have room to make a move after that and extend the play. And with Brock, you see far less of that kind of stuff and far more of him hitting guys in stride and keeping the offense on pace and humming. And that's what you've seen these last couple of weeks. I mean, going back to the game against the Titans now, that's 3 consecutive weeks where this team has put up 37 plus points. 37 points against the Titans, 48 against the Colts, 42 against the Bears. And during the 6-game win streak, they also had another 40-plus point performance, 41 against the Arizona Cardinals. So, I mean, since Brock has come back, he has been absolutely on fire. And it's not like the other 2 games in that 6-game win streak were duds. They had 20 points against the Panthers, which he didn't have the best game there. He was pressing a little bit in that one. And he had 26 points against the Browns in the Jim Schwartz defense that is so highly, touted, especially when they play the 49ers. They've had problems against him these last few years. I mean, he was fine. So, ultimately, right now, I really don't think there's anything that can knock off Brock Purdy with how he's playing. Like this guy, I know he hasn't been there for most of the season, and I'm not saying he deserves this award or should be considered for it at all. But if Brock Purdy played at the same level that he's been playing these last, 5-6 weeks, he would be the MVP of the NFL this season. Like this guy is the best player in the NFL right now at this very moment, I think. And I don't think it's too far of a stretch to say that.
I think you said something pretty important there. A couple of things pretty important there, Eric. And one of them was the Panthers game. And I wonder if that was a little slap in the face to Brock Purdy. He was like, okay, chill out, brother. What are you doing? Let's not throw the football to the other team and play within yourself, play within the offense. And you can still make big plays and not be dangerous and turning the football over. And he's kind of been a different guy since then, probably healthier as well. Obviously, he had the toe injury that kept him out for much of the early part of the season. But I think talking about hardos that watch every game, and I think that's part of it, because it's really easy. And a lot of people use the EPA stat, and they use it like a quarterback stat, but it's a team stat. It's an offense stat. And if you start going by that and you say, hey, Brock Purdy is the best quarterback in the NFL because his EPA per play, which is expected points added, it's an advanced metric if you don't know. And well, okay, that's great. But guess what? Guess who else was good in that? Mac Jones was good in that. Guess who else was great with EPA per play? Jimmy Garoppolo. So that's the argument, because people are like, okay, cool. Well, yes, he's been efficient, but guess what? So is all these other Shanahan quarterbacks. So you have to watch the games, I think, to appreciate it a little bit more. And when you watch Jimmy Garoppolo's San Francisco 49ers, and you watch Mac Jones playing with the San Francisco 49ers, and you watch any other San Francisco 49ers, as we have, and you watch Brock Purdy every single game, you realize how much he can create on his own and how much better he might actually be than some of those quarterbacks. And so I think, and look, I do a national show. I do by the way, tune in, subscribe, NFL Six Pack, myself and Matt Williamson, former NFL scout. We break down the entire league daily right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's hard on a national level to watch every snap of every game. In fact, it's impossible, because you cannot do it. There's not enough time to do it in a week when you're doing, especially in a day when you're doing a daily show. You want to show up on Monday. There's not enough time. I've done the math. I've crunched the numbers. There's not enough time to watch every snap of every single game on Sunday and talk about it on Monday, right? So that you're at a little bit of a disadvantage sometimes. You're looking for shortcuts. And I think that's part of it, is it's really hard to appreciate Brock Purdy if you don't watch him game in and game out. You don't realize how good he is facilitating the offense. You don't realize how good he is making anticipatory throws and creating more than other quarterbacks have in Kyle Shanahan's system. Can he make some of the throws that we've seen Josh Allen make or even Caleb Williams make in recent weeks? No, he doesn't have that arm, but he wins in a different way. And that doesn't make him a bad quarterback. It just makes him a different quarterback. And people have a really tough time coming to grips with that and realizing how good Brock Purdy is and what he can create on his own. The guts and the determination he plays with, I think, is really important. And that's some of the things that can cause some interceptions. We saw that with Brett Favre. We saw that with Matthew Stafford as well. And I think it's part of being a great quarterback, because you have to be able to throw and trust what you're seeing out there. And I think Brock Purdy, maybe even more than some quarterbacks, he can't wait and throw late and fit it in. He has to throw it early, and he has to trust what he sees. Sometimes it makes it look bad. Sometimes he ends up throwing interceptions because it didn't turn out to be exactly how he saw it, but he saw it. And that's what makes Brock Purdy special, is how he sees it.
Yeah, I think the Brett Favre comparison is pretty good. Like I see a lot of Brett Favre when I watch Brock Purdy, in the sense of like the gunslinger mentality, and he's going to extend the play, keep it alive. He's not the fastest guy in the world, but he's kind of hard and slippery to bring down. But just take out the big arm that Favre had and replace it with a equally big brain for Brock Purdy.
This is what it is, Eric. It's Drew Brees playing Brett Favre in a movie.
Yeah, that's a perfect comparison right there. And I actually was just watching I don't remember where I saw it, but I was just watching the other. Man, I wish I could remember. I was watching this comparison of Drew Brees' throwing motion to Brock Purdy's throwing motion. They're eerily similar. I mean, the way that they use the whole body and like where their torque points are, it's so similar. It's really, really, really interesting to watch. I'll see if I can dig that up for a future show. But yeah, I mean, watching Brock do what he does out there with with who he has around him right now is incredible. I mean, let's just bring it down to one play. That play that Brock made when he threw that touchdown pass to Kyle Juszczyk. Dwayne, any other quarterback in the Kyle Shanahan era making that play, I'm pretty sure Brock Purdy's the only one who's turning that into a touchdown.
Yeah, he would be the only one, because that ball was on the spot. And you talk about one thing that's impressive about him, and you talk about Jimmy and the other guys that Kyle Shanahan had. Hey, Brock is a game manager. He can manage the game. He won't put the team in danger. Like Jimmy. I remember. You remember the Ram game? That was a playoff game when Jimmy, the 49ers had the ball on the last drive, and somehow Jimmy found the wrong colored jersey at the end of the game. Brock doesn't do that. He is great at managing the game and keeping a level head. You don't see him when he goes to the bench. You don't see him rattle. He just goes to the bench, and he has a calm about him. And when you playing with a quarterback that has a calm about him, it affects the team. The team sees it, and they want to say they want to be there with him, in the zone with him, and not walking the sidelines and throwing a helmet and all of that crap. He just has it. He right now. And that's what they're going to need going into this game, because it's going to be raining and the ball's going to be wet. I'm sure he's throwing wet balls all week. And I would probably go to sleep with one. I'll put my ball in the tub and cradle it all night long, because it's going to be
outside.
Raining and wet. Yeah, it's outside and it's going to be raining and wet and all of that. So,
hey, you know what? You better get used to black helmets, because he's going to be throwing to a different colored helmet than any quarterback in 49ers history on Sunday. Or on Saturday, excuse me. They got the black alt unis going on. I saw him at practice, and I was like, is this Texas Tech? This looks really weird right now.
I don't know about that. How did they come up with black helmets of all helmets?
Money.
Yeah, money.
Trying to turn a buck.
Yeah,
the NFL. The NFL. Nike. They love nothing more than turning a buck. So that's the biggest answer.
Yeah.
I wish they hadn't changed the helmet, but I do think these alternate unis are, as far as 49ers alternates go, aside from just the classic throwback, like this is better than any other alternate uniform that I've seen the 49ers like try to roll out in recent years. These ones I actually think are pretty decent. I'm glad they're only using them for one game this season though.
Black is always going to sell. Black jersey. That's the easiest thing that people can throw on jerseys, and we see it with a lot of alternates around every sport. I'm a little bit more of a traditionalist, not just for. I usually there's a like. I don't like to see the San Francisco Giants wearing blue. You know what I mean? It's like, that's the other team's color, right? You don't mess with that. For the 49ers wearing black, it's not a big deal. You're not in the division with the Falcons anymore. But there's a little bit of that where it's like, well, what's the point of having uniforms if it's not we're this and you're that and this is the way we wear it and that's the way it goes. So it can get dicey at times. If done well, the alts can look great. And yeah, they're alternates. You wear them sometimes. But yeah, it's really interesting to see the new helmet, because we've seen a lot of different uniforms. We've seen black uniforms before. We've never seen a black helmet before. So this is going to be a first. It's going to be a little bit weird getting used to it, I think, when they run out of the tunnel. I'm still not used to it after seeing some practice footage.
Yeah, but to go back to the point you made just a minute ago, Dwayne, about Brock's quarterback like presence that he has, his lack of temper tantrums and his ability to like command the huddle and just in be a leader of men, like that's what it is. And it sounds, like a cliche, and it sounds like just something that people say on TV, but it's not. There's something to that. When you have Trent Williams standing in your huddle, and Trent's as seasoned of a vet as it gets in the NFL, as decorated of a player as you can have. And when you have a guy like that, and by the way, a guy who's not too shy when it comes to, ripping guys that he's had bad experiences with in the past in the NFL, and being flat out honest and being like, yeah, that guy, not really, the best guy to command a huddle. With Brock Purdy, you've never even heard like an inkling of Trent Williams having a doubt about him. In fact, when other people have doubts, Trent is the first person to go up to that podium postgame and say great things about Brock Purdy and how he conducts himself, how he manages the huddle, how he leads men into battle. And that's a huge part of playing quarterback in the NFL. I mean, Dwayne, you can speak to this. If Joe Montana had all the tools that he had, but he didn't have that confidence and that ability to command the huddle, would he have still been the player that he was?
I don't think so. No, he wouldn't have been, because you have a lot of personalities in the NFL, right? And if you can't be in command, somebody's going to try to step on your feet. You're going to have a player that's going to say, hey, it's time for me to step up and take over. But I don't think there's one guy on the team that will come up to Brock Purdy and says, "What the hell was that throw all about?" I don't think it's one guy that will say that, and he's probably another person who won't ever criticize a player for not running the correct route. He's just that kind of guy, and that gives a lot of respect to the individual when he doesn't challenge someone else when they do something wrong.
Yeah, he's a guy who seems to take ownership of mistakes when he makes them. He doesn't seem to have any issues with doing that. And even sometimes when it's not his fault, he'll that's what a leader does. He says, "Put that on me. I'll take that blame on my shoulders and we will go forward. And you don't worry about this. I'll handle all of that negativity. I'll handle the pressure. I'll deal with all these national media, jokers basically going out there every day and saying that I'm a backup quarterback and that Mac Jones maybe should be starting over me." I mean, it feels so insane to go back to when Mac Jones was starting in place of Brock Purdy when he was injured this season, and you had a huge contingency of people, both Niners fans and people in the national media saying Mac Jones should be the starting quarterback. And I can't even say that sentence without laughing right now because that is how insane that sounds to me. I mean, does anybody in their right mind still think the same thing?
Well, look, Eric, I think that it's an important lesson, and I think we have to apply that lesson to where we are today as well, because I think a lot of times as sports fans, we are prisoners of the moment, and all of a sudden Mac Jones starts playing well, and you say, well, okay, maybe Mac Jones is as good as Brock Purdy, and you're paying him a lot less. Maybe the 49ers should get rid of Brock Purdy and stick with Mac Jones. And then a few weeks later, all of a sudden you're like, oh, Brock Purdy just put up 40 points in 3 straight games. And Brock Purdy's the greatest quarterback of all time. I see it in the chat right now and talking about Brock Purdy being the best quarterback in the NFL. And it's like, okay, let's calm down and just let's realize there's peaks and valleys. And we don't have to say that Brock Purdy is the best quarterback that's ever existed on the planet. And we don't also have to say that Brock Purdy should lose his job to Mac Jones 6 weeks apart. We could find a middle ground and just realize that Brock Purdy's good. He's been good before. He's still good now, and he'll be good into the future. And we don't have to go through this roller coaster of being such a prisoner in the moment to everything and be like, well, today his QBR is the best. He's the best quarterback ever. We don't have to go through all of that. We can just realize he's good and enjoy the ride. But can the 49ers play defense and allow Brock Purdy to go win a football game because he can't outscore everybody, including the Seattle Seahawks, with 40 points on offense? I think that's the important thing to look forward to right now, because it's great when you're flying high. It's great when you're throwing 5 touchdown passes in a game. It's not going to happen every week, and the 49ers aren't going to roll through the playoffs and score 40 every week.
Yeah, I think those games are few and far between.
You talk about scoring 40 points, and you gotta at some point be able to put the fire out on defense, and you don't know if the 49ers defense is good enough to put the fire out.
Eric, I don't want to step on your toes, but I think in the next segment, we should talk about how defense doesn't matter anymore. And I think teams are spending too much money on defensive linemen because let's just chuck the ball around and score some points. What are we doing?
Yeah, I mean, who needs them? Nick Bosa, not here. Doesn't matter. 49ers still battling for the number 1 overall seed. And you're right, Brian. Why don't we get into that next here on the Locked On 49ers squad show, and we'll dissect all of that and a lot more about this 49ers defense, because there's a lot to talk about, man. It has not been pretty. Despite this 6-game win streak, there's still a lot of issues that they have. So how can they fix them before they play the Seahawks on Saturday? We'll get into that and more coming up next on the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. Today's show is brought to you by Gametime. The NFL season is in full swing. There's nothing like being at the game. The crowd noise, the energy, and cheering alongside other fans. Maybe the chance to see the 49ers clinch the number 1 overall seed in the NFC. Watching at home is great, but being in the stadium, especially this Saturday, will absolutely hit different. The frustrating part has always been getting tickets, waiting in queues, dealing with logins, and watching prices change right as soon as you are about to hit that buy now button. That's why the Gametime app gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the hack for unlocking amazing NFL tickets and experiences in just a few taps. I absolutely love using the Gametime app, and because at the last minute, it always gives you a nice little discount, and it's so intuitive. Browsing, comparing, and buying tickets takes just a few minutes. And one of my favorite features is being able to see the view from my seat before buying, so there are no surprises. The zone deal's also pretty cool too. You just pick the section, Gametime picks the seats, and you save even more money. And guess what? Gametime gets you tickets for a lot more than just sports. I get concert tickets all the damn time through Gametime. So take the guesswork out of buying NFL tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL. That's LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today and get back to being there live. Welcome back to the Locked On 49er Squad Show. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel, joined by my guys, Dwayne Board, four-time Super Bowl champion, and Brian Peacock, one half of the Locked On 49ers podcast. And guys, Brian, you set it up perfectly, man. It's 49ers defense. It's been, pretty bad. I mean, let's just be blunt. It's been pretty atrocious. Has been, having a hard time even stopping something as simple as a nosebleed lately. And Dwayne, who better to talk about it than you, man? What the hell is going on with this 49er defense? I know they got injuries all over the place, but I mean, they looked like they could not stop the Bears at all last week. And the Colts, even without Daniel Jones, still put up 27 points against them. The Titans offense, who has not been very good, also 24 points against the 49ers. And interestingly enough, this comes after back-to-back weeks where the 49ers held opponents to single-digit scores. So Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde from this 49ers defense over the last couple months of the season. What do they need to do to get back to that Dr. Jekyll instead of being Mr. Hyde? What are the 49ers defense? Where are some of the areas they can shore up?
Well, it's one thing. It's too late to shore up that defensive line because those guys, they can't get a quarterback sack if somebody put the sack in the locker right now. So right now we're looking at a team that has no pass rush. As Brian brought up, it's like, how can you win a football game in the NFL with no pass rushing? Every team in the NFL wants to throw the ball. Nobody wants to run the ball because when you throw the ball, you're a genius. When you run the ball, you're just a plain old guy, Anybody can do that. Hand the ball off to a great running back and tell the offensive lineman to get the hell out the way. But the 49ers, if you look at what they do, they play better red zone defense, okay, so than they do when when the team is backed up or when the team is in a situation where they have to throw the ball and guys are really wide open. And when you're playing zone, this is the thing that gets me, right? You watch them when they play in zone, they're watching the quarterback, okay? When the quarterback is holding the ball and out of the pocket, you got to plaster your man. And you don't see that with the 49 secondary. They're not plastering their man right now, and guys are running wide open, and quarterbacks are just slinging the ball down the field and for anybody to catch. We used to say, hey, that guy has so much time, a gopher could pop up out the ground and catch that ball. So that's the problem is they got to get more pressure on the quarterback, but it's too late now. And like I said, to find a sack, man, you got to go to the grocery store, man. You got to go to Safeway and get a sack or something. It's sad.
The grounds crews weren't as important when Dwayne played. There were gophers on the field making catches. It was a different era back there. Yeah. And you know what they for sure did is played a lot more defense back then. Dwayne, we were talking about this off the air, talking about, man, can a team win the Super Bowl with legitimately like poor defense, like bottom half of the league, bottom third of the league defense is where the 49ers are right now. And they've kind of gotten a little bit worse in the last few weeks against the teams and the quarterbacks you're going to be playing against week in and week out in the playoffs. And so we went back. Yeah, well, I was just going to say, we went back and we looked at some of the scores from recent Super Bowls. And I was thinking, like, how many times was there a 42-38 Super Bowl, right? Like the Bears 49ers game was. And I went through it. And there actually has been some pretty darn high scoring Super Bowls recently. So maybe we are in that era of football. Last year, 40-22 with the Eagles beating the Chiefs. A couple years before that, the Chiefs took care of the Eagles 38-35, not far off of what we just saw with the 49ers and the Bears last week. And then the Eagles win over the Patriots in February of 2018. That was the Nick Foles game, 41-33. So a lot of points scored in that game. And if my math is correct, I think that's the highest scoring Super Bowl ever, was 41-33 when the Eagles beat the New England Patriots. Because back before that, and I'm thinking about, the 49ers in 95 when they won the Super Bowl against the Chargers, that was 49-26. And I didn't even remember the Chargers scoring 26 points. I didn't even realize it was that close. And then going back even further with the 49ers beating the Denver Broncos after the 1989 season, 55-10 that year. So usually when one team scores a lot, the other team doesn't score a lot, but we are seeing more points in more recent Super Bowls, which probably shouldn't be too shocking. But can you expect, even if, let's say, Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan and Christian McCaffrey and the gang and Kittle's healthy and Trent Williams comes back from his hamstring and everything's smooth the rest of the way through the playoffs, and they're scoring a bunch of points and playing pretty poor defense? Is that enough? Is that the new recipe for winning a Super Bowl, Dwayne? Like, maybe it is. I don't know. I feel like it isn't, but the 49ers have had elite defenses and still lost the Super Bowl in the past. So I don't know.
I think, when back in the day when we won Super Bowls, the defense carried a lot of the weight. And you don't see it being in the NFL a lot. The only team that I would think that you go back to the Baltimore Ravens, okay? You remember when they won the first Super Bowl with Trent?
Trent Dilfer.
Dilfer. 49er great, Trent Dilfer.
Yeah, that was
Fresno State legend.
Yeah, that was a sad Super Bowl because the defense won that Super Bowl, and today you don't see it as much because it's a lot of it's like college football, right? All the good athletes on offense now. And the defense just gets whatever's left over it.
I hope Joe Montana and Steve Young aren't listening to this podcast right now. Listen to Dwayne talking about how he was the one that carried them to all these championships back in the day.
I didn't say that. I'm going to say, hey, Fred Dean carried us to the championship along with Ronnie Lott and Jack Hacksaw Reynolds. You guys don't know none of those guys.
Oh, dude, I remember I wore my first year ever playing flag football when I was a kid. I wore 42 because of Ronnie Lott. I was mostly playing running back in those days and running back and little DB. I was not a great DB because I was not a great corner because my coach used to get mad at me because I would lose my man because I always wanted to have eyes in the backfield. And, I was a bad corner, even though I was kind of a fast kid.
I remember in the Super Bowl where Ryan Lott came in the huddle and said, "Hey, we got to stop Ickey Woods," and he said, "Let him through. I'll take care of him." And Ronnie hit him, and Ickey went to the bench and never shuffled again. Last time I seen Ickey shuffle, he was shuffling in a grocery store somewhere, making a commercial.
Yeah. So he was filling those sacks you were talking about earlier in the grocery store, right?
Exactly. Ickey was filling sacks.
Oh man, you guys are cracking me up today, man. The 49ers for sure. I think I kind of agree that that's the trend that things have been going towards in the NFL. And one thing that I kind of wonder about in the sense of like Super Bowls being more and more high scoring is that kind of an effect of the increased load, like the increased regular season, the additional games that these teams are playing? Because I feel like in general, as we see the season progress now, we are seeing higher and higher and higher scoring outputs across the NFL, not just like for the 49ers and in the playoffs, but just even towards the end of the regular season. I feel like you get a lot more of these high total games. So Dwayne, do you think that was that's maybe a factor? Do you think that these defenses are maybe just getting worn down, and maybe it's not just the added, games to the schedule, because theoretically it's still the same number of games as you would play prior, just some of them are regular season games instead of preseason games now. But when you pair that with how little these guys are hitting in the offseason and how non-physical those that I shouldn't say non-physical, but how much actual physical contact has been taken out of things like OTAs and training camp and things like that. Does all that kind of add up to what we're seeing, which is a defense that is in general throughout the NFL, like kind of gassed when it gets to the end of the season?
I think it is, but you also got to throw in too that the way the league is now and the way the rules are, it's in favor of offense today.
Oh, 100%.
They've taken away so much from the defense that they might as well turn it into flag football. And I'm not going to say this, but and have girls playing. So that's the way it is. That's the way it looks right now. And you don't see you see a quarterback get hit. It's almost like you got to give him a pillow when you put him down. You can't burp him or nothing like that no more. You can't hit him in the back. You can't.
The thing where you can't like accidentally land on a quarterback after you sack him. Isn't that how tackles work?
Yeah, how do you tackle it?
How do you tackle him? And how about when they run over to the sidelines and stuff, and you think they're going to step out and they fake you, and then you can't hit them over near the sidelines. They still in the field of play. I look at it like this: if he has 1 foot on this in the infield, I'm going to blow him up. But now, if he's got 1 foot on the infield, he can shake you and step right back up and take off and keep running. And it's crazy, But I guess you got to protect somebody.
The pass interference rules are pretty rough too, because they don't allow defenders to have an opportunity to go after the football and act like the ball in the air could be their ball, because every time a receiver gets touched, they're like, they want the flag, and a lot of times they get it. And a DB was like, look, the ball's in the air, I can go after this football too. And it's very rare that you see that called the other way, and it gets very ticky-tack on some very, to be honest with you, the 49ers benefited from it.
Oh, yeah.
And Brock Purdy's interception in the end zone was called back because of something that was like, okay, I don't think it really affected the play at all, but, maybe the letter of the law, you got to make that call and you got to throw that flag. But I would understand why C.J. Gardner-Johnson, I believe, who was the one who got the flag called on him, would be upset with that, because, you're just trying to play football. And there wasn't really anything egregious there to call. And it didn't affect the play at all. And the 49ers benefited from it for sure on that play.
So I'm kind of curious because, Brian, you brought something up there about how everybody's whining for calls all the time. Like every single play, you see somebody looking over at the official, throwing up the flag or the hands raised in the air and yelling at these guys. And Dwayne,
we're celebrating too, right, Eric? And I know this, growing up watching football or any sport, that didn't used to happen. Especially with like baseball too has changed a lot in that regard. It was like you didn't show up the opponent and everything. And now guys are, they're like the whole circus is in town after they make one play, and it's like, dude, where did this come from? But in football as well, like if you're a receiver, and I think maybe the 7-on-7 has a lot to do with it, but they go crazy no matter what. If you made a play, you let everybody in the world know about it, and then if you don't make a play, then you make this huge spectacle because it had to have been some sort of interference, or else you would have made that catch.
Yeah, I love when DBs nowadays, like you'll be down, 31-10, and you've given up 2 touchdowns on the day, and the guy across from you is, $150 receiving, and you get 1 PBU, and you're doing the seatbelt, and you are, doing the finger with the quarterback throws the ball.
Quarterback throws the ball 10 yards out of bounds. You didn't even have anything to do with it, but you got to let him know.
I just don't get it, man. And that's kind of my question, Dwayne, is it seems like the level of kind of, maybe it's not as to the level of disrespect, but it's kind of showing up your opponent in a lot of times, showing up the officials in a lot of these moments where guys are screaming at them, like literally screaming at them, coaches screaming at them too. And I feel like throughout NFL history, you would kind of not really see that as much in the past. Maybe you'd see, Mike Ditka getting mad and screaming at the official or something, but you wouldn't see like just like everyday players. Like I'm not talking star players. I'm talking about like your backup nickel corner going over and screaming at an official for a call. And I feel like I see that in every game across the NFL every week. And I feel like maybe I just didn't notice that as much in the past, but did there used to be like a different decorum between players and officials and back in the day? Like, what officials just like, I'm not hearing that. Like, you want to call later in the game, you better not be yelling at me, because otherwise maybe I might not see that next time.
Back in the officials used to, if you complain, you're not going to get a call. Yeah. And it's changed where now officials feel like, well, I got to make a call. But back in the old days, man, hey, if you gave official a hard time, he would be on your case. He'll be watching you at like every play. I know, even with a defensive lineman, if you line up and you even close to being offsides, he won't even tell you to back up. He's going to throw a flag. They're supposed to give you a warning, but they don't. They just flag you anyway. And today you don't see that. It's like, man, the officials, they're trapped, because you got all these young kids thinking, like you said, the ball goes 10 feet over the guy's head. He's pumping his fist like he's made a play. That shows you what? He just want to get some notoriety. Man, make a real play. Yeah, make a real play.
And also, everything's so closely graded, and there's high definition video of every single call and every single play. So you have to be good at your job if you're an official and accurate, or else you won't be in the league. I think is a big part of it, which is, I think, good for everybody. But then on the other side of that, as we know via Puka Nacua, that these refs are just trying to get TV time anyway.
Yeah.
Did you hear that quote from Puka Nacua? They're just trying to get their mugs on TV, making all these calls, being a little bit extra.
I mean, there is a little bit more showmanship, I would say, from NFL officials. The dramatic pauses before they announce what team the penalty is on. Things like that in today's league that I feel like you didn't really have much back in the day. And I am okay with that little bit of showmanship, but I don't think anybody's watching NFL on Sunday to go watch the ref show. I don't think anyone's showing up for any sport for the ref. You know what I mean? And we're getting a little bit too much of that.
Yeah, and back in the day, they didn't go to the tent like today. They got to go to the tent to get the call right. But then the call is coming from New York anyway.
Yeah.
So
they're not. They're having a lot more conversations these days where someone will throw a flag, then everyone will get together. And it used to be like, well, you threw the flag, so that was it. Like, what are we talking about right now? Do they talk them out of it, or hey, what did you see? What did you see? I think I saw this. Are you sure? Like, I don't know. And then like, nope, never mind, no flag. And as Ian points out in the chat, sports betting, that's where things get very dicey, because the league and a lot of leagues are kind of in bed, and there's a lot of money in sports betting and sports gambling. Did Dwayne, blink twice if there's a gun to your head right now, but did the mafia ever get to you to shave some points when you were playing back in the day?
Hey, I know nothing, but no, that's a funny thing, because now with the sports betting, they have to, it's almost like somebody's controlling it. Okay. It's like, well, where's the money at on this line? Well, let's call New York and see. Yeah, back in the day, it was
New York or New Jersey? Who actually called?
Right? Back in the day, it was live in the stadium. Maybe it didn't come from New York.
Yeah. Well, we have gotten way down a road that's a little ways away from where we started here. But to go back to where we started this segment, right, which was, can the 49ers win a Super Bowl with a kind of a mid to not so mid, maybe a little worse than mid defense, maybe a little bit closer to garbage than mid lately, and not total hot garbage. Like, the dumpster isn't quite on fire yet, but I mean, they're kind of getting there. They're trending that direction. And now I kind of want to bring up two teams to you guys, because they were both teams that were able to kind of overcome really bad defenses. And maybe they had like a standout player or two on defense, but overall these defenses were not very good. However, these Super Bowls are not super recent. They're within the last, they're this century, at least. They're post 2000. But it's the Indianapolis Colts and the New Orleans Saints. And both those teams went on to win Super Bowls. And I would think that we could all collectively agree that like those defenses weren't amazing. Like, yeah, I know the Colts had, Rob Morris and Antoine Bethea and Robert Mathis and Bob Sanders and guys like that, Gary Brackett, but they weren't, top end defensive guys. And when you look at the Saints, I know they had Jonathan Vilma and Tracy Porter and Malcolm Jenkins, but again, after that, Darren Sharper when he was 100 years old, but after that, it starts to really get thin for both of those teams. Same common trend with both of those teams, though. You have a generational talent at quarterback, a Drew Brees, a Peyton Manning. Is Brock Purdy of that level? Is Brock Purdy of that ilk? Can he do the same thing that those two guys did?
Wow, man, you asked a hard question, okay? So you look at Peyton Manning, guess what he has? He has a gold jacket, okay? You look at Drew Brees, he's going to get one coming up pretty soon because I'm going to vote for him. So Brock Purdy, he was drafted when? In the 12th round, last player picked. Man, if he can come up with a gold jacket at the end of his career and you're still alive and I'm still living, I'll call you and say, hey, you were right. Brock Purdy put him in there with Peyton Manning and Drew Brees. But right now, you gotta show me.
That's right. Yeah, you gotta. We're talking about 15 years and at least one Lombardi before you can even start having those conversations. And the 49ers have been there and they've been close. And fair or not, that's how things are measured. So you can look good and you can make some plays and you can have an EPA that looks like it's Drew Brees, but that stuff doesn't happen overnight. And in the end, are you winning a title? Are you winning titles? I think that's really important. And I think that's where Brock Purdy will be judged. That's for sure where Kyle Shanahan's going to be judged eventually. And I love the correlation, except for the fact that Andy Reid didn't win in his first spot. But I think young Andy Reid and Kyle Shanahan, very similar, getting close, kind of you can't figure it out. Then you go to a new spot and then you win and you hope that Kyle Shanahan can figure out in his first spot and win a title with the 49ers and it's not a situation where he goes somewhere else and then wins championships later with a different quarterback and a different football team, right? But you can't skip the process. You can't fast forward the process. So you can look like Drew Brees for a month, right? That doesn't make you Drew Brees. You can look like a lot of quarterbacks for a short time, and you can have some good stats for a short time. And it kind of goes back to what I was talking about, being a prisoner of the moment. And I feel like that's why you tune into Locked On 49ers, because I talked the same about Brock Purdy, like I talked about him after 3 interceptions against the Panthers, like I talked about him last year. That's there's going to be ebbs and flows. Quarterback development isn't linear. It's going to be up and down. And so I can't wait to see how it plays out. Like, I'll have my popcorn just like everybody else, but you can't. I think a lot of football fans try to, and of course, when it comes to a rivalry game too, and I'm seeing a lot of this on social media with 49ers fans and Seahawks fans, they're like trying to litigate the game before it's going to happen in 3 days. You can't like make some argument and all of a sudden your team wins because you made a great argument on Twitter. It's going to happen on the field.
Don't tell the Twitter people that.
Wait and watch the game, and then we'll break it down, right? But you can't like argue what's going to happen. We can talk about what did happen, and so that's where I'm at with Brock Purdy, and Brock Purdy's awesome. It's gonna be a lot of fun. The 49ers need to make more stops on defense than they have recently, and they had done that earlier on in the season. I think Robert Saleh is doing a phenomenal job, by the way, even though the 49ers defense statistically isn't looking great. Can they get those? But by the way, let me ask you guys this question. I had a good back and forth with Alex Sherman, who's a CNBC media guy. And, he's I wouldn't say he's a closet 49ers fan, but his Twitter at is at Sherman4949. So I think we know where his loyalty lies. And he covers sports and he covers other things for CNBC. And I was making a tweet about what the most valuable 49ers were, and talking about, George Kittle and some other players. And he said that clearly it's Christian McCaffrey who's the most important 49er this year, the most valuable 49er. And if you listen to Locked On 49ers, you know that I'm a running backs don't matter guy. And if running backs do matter, then Christian McCaffrey matters as much as any running back because of how good he is in the passing game. But I tend to think that most of his rushing is somewhat replaceable by another good back. That's just where I'm at with running backs league-wide. Let me know who the last running back was who was like a first-round guy who won a title with the team who drafted him. It doesn't happen in this day and age in the NFL. As good as Christian McCaffrey is, this is not a slight on Christian McCaffrey. It's just the way the game is right now. And I said something to the effect that I would, as awesome as Christian McCaffrey has been and how huge a part of all of this Christian McCaffrey has been, I would trade him in a heartbeat to get Nick Bosa back for the playoffs. And Alex disagreed with me, and he had some great reasons why, talking about spacing and how the offense plays, and would the rest of the offense work as well if Christian McCaffrey is out there? Because I know Kyle Shanahan's offense, every call on his sheet is in play when a running back like that's on the field, because you can call anything because he's that good and he's so versatile. But man, if the 49ers had that extra player on defense, even at the expense of a Christian McCaffrey, I think I personally would feel better about their chances in the playoffs, especially with the way that Brock Purdy is playing right now.
It's an interesting point.
You got the mute on, Dwayne.
Yeah, so I agree with you on that because, hey, if you don't have a pass rush when the game is on the line, I don't care who's playing quarterback for the other team, and Bosa will show up. Right now, the 49ers got 18 sacks, all right? That's one defensive lineman in the NFL.
Myles Garrett got more than that all by himself.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, right now, he line up and play for the 49ers. If they had him, it would be a cakewalk. But
you know what? Eric, that's a great point, though. Defensive linemen are overrated because how good are the Browns?
Well, they don't have a quarterback. They still looking for the quarterback still.
But if you did, that's kind of a, I know it's you could just make the same comparison with Nick Bosa, but if you're taking Christian McCaffrey versus Myles Garrett and you're asking me who I'd rather have, I undoubtedly, I'm like not even hesitating. Like, I'll give you 2 Christian McCaffreys for a Myles Garrett. You know what I mean? Like, that guy can completely destroy an offensive game plan all by himself. And right now, the 49ers don't have anybody on this roster who can do that. Like, there's not a single game wrecker on the defense. There isn't anybody who's just talented. And like, I like Tatum Bethune. He's not going to go and just like, come down with a pick six, force a fumble, maybe come up with a sack in like 3 stuffs in the run game at the line of scrimmage. He's not going to single-handedly end a drive. He's not going to have like 3 consecutive downs where he is the guy making the stop. How many times have you seen Fred Warner do that in a game? Like, maybe not all of those things in the same game, but like some combination of those things. I would venture to say more often than not, Fred Warner's doing some combination of those things in pretty much every single game that he's healthy. And right now, 49ers do not have a single guy on this team who can do that, who can take over a game defensively. I mean, maybe the closest thing you have to that is like Diamador Lenore, a Malik Mustafa. Like, and that's a big stretch. Like, I mean, that's like they had a career night kind of thing. And you're just hoping it comes at the right time. But I think the 49ers defense right now, it is what it is. And you just got to have a lot of hope and faith in this offense to be able to cover up some of the mistakes that this defense is inevitably going to make. Like, it is going to happen. There are going to be bad moments on this defense. There's going to be, a blown coverage, a DB that just gets flat out beat a few times, a pass rush that's just not getting home, giving the quarterback a million years to throw it. And hopefully Sam Darnold doesn't go back there and dissect the 49ers defense. And hopefully, the 49ers offense, despite the fact that the Seattle Seahawks have virtually none of these problems on their defense, and they are this number 2 defense in the NFL as far as points allowed goes, hopefully the 49ers offense can make that Seattle Seahawks defense look a little more pedestrian and a little less elite this week, because that, to me, is going to be the key. I think that the defense could make a huge impact in this game, but I don't think that they're going to make a lot of different impact plays in this game, if that makes sense. Like, I think that even just one big impact play from this defense could be what tips the scales in the 49ers' favor. I mean, last week, or this game against the Bears, they only punted twice. Like, we talked all month about how, Thomas Morstead hasn't punted since November and yada, yada, yada. But ultimately, if the 49ers defense can make sure that the Seattle Seahawks are punting a few extra times or coming down with a turnover or two, maybe, I mean, 2 turnovers, that's asking a lot for this 49ers defense, the way they've been playing lately. But if they can do those things, I think that just one of those things, I think that makes a win a lot more likely for the 49ers. So I'm not saying defense doesn't matter in this one, but I think the offense actually matters a lot more than the defense. And that is not something that I normally say when I'm looking at the NFL. I am for sure a defense wins championships kind of guy. And this 49ers team is kind of breaking a lot of those expectations in preconceived notions I have about what a good team in the NFL looks like. And right now, I mean, if the 49ers end up as the number 1 overall seed in the NFC, you can't sit there and say that this team is not good. I mean, even if they don't end up as the number 1 overall seed, I don't think you can sit there and say this team is not good. But the offense is going to have to carry this team as far as I'm concerned. We got to take a quick break here, and at the next, we got to talk a little bit about ball control and how that's going to be important for this game. We don't have a ton of time, so we'll try and get this in briefly. So we'll be right back here on the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. Welcome back to the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel, with my guys, Dwayne Board, 4-time Super Bowl champion, and Brian Peacock, one half of the Locked On 49ers podcast. And Brian, you brought it up at the beginning of the show. I wanted to make sure we got this in. Ball control. Quickly, why is that going to be a big factor in Saturday's matchup?
Well, one aspect of it is that both of these teams want to run the ball. I think every team pays lip service into wanting to run the ball, but we already know that Kyle Shanahan offenses is built off the run game first, and they want to run the ball a lot. And Christian McCaffrey is going to touch the ball 25 times. I think we know that, but they're going up against the number 1. According to EPA per play, the number 1 rush defense in the NFL in the Seattle Seahawks. And what's interesting is the Seahawks try to run the ball, and they haven't gotten away from trying to run the ball, but they haven't been good at running the ball either. They're a bottom, I think, 5 team in the NFL running the football. So efficient, and the Niners aren't good efficiency-wise running the ball either, even though they're so both teams are going to try to run the ball. But neither team has been extremely successful. The 49ers have been hitting some big runs recently. And Dwayne, I know we've talked about this before on the podcast about how important big runs and explosive plays in the run game have been to Kyle Shanahan's offense. And we've actually seen it for the first time all year recently. So is Christian McCaffrey hitting a different stride? And somehow after 400 touches, he's like, oh, now I feel great. And I'm going to break off these big runs because that's what seems like is happening.
He had to get rid of his all-pro left tackle and tight end, best blocking tight end in the league first before he had his.
Of course, yeah. It's like, let's get rid of your 2 best blockers. Oh, here we go. Now I feel spry all of a sudden.
It's one thing if you go back and look what they did was over the last 3 or 4 games, they've been going more 21 personnel with 2 backs and 1 tight end, and they've been getting more success out of running the ball. And also, if you notice too, when they in 21 personnel, who's moving? 44 is on the move most of the time, about 90% of the time he's moving, and that's making it hard for defenses because when you got a fullback that's moving, what does the defense have to do? They gotta adjust. Okay, they have to move too, and to account for where the strong point of where the run might go. And McCaffrey, once they get the fullback get moving and the defense is sliding, then McCaffrey is good at picking the lanes. And that's one thing that's helping them right now. And I know when the Rams played the Seahawks, they played a lot of 13 personnel. So they played 3 tight ends. But the 49ers don't have to go with that because you check, all he is just he's the tight end body. So really that puts you in almost the same position. And I think Shanahan is using that a lot more. And he's able to he got his best people on the field. He's got his tight end and 2 wide receivers, the best. He's using his best personnel right now. There's no way he's going to come out there 11 personnel or 20 personnel. It's no way. He can't do that because he don't have the talent to do that on offense. So he's putting his best people on the field. And you check, he's a good receiver. So it makes it tough. So teams have to adjust to him. And the thing that the Seahawks do is they play a complicated defense, and it's going to make it even harder for them because when you're playing a complicated defense, you have more adjustments to make unless they just go and play one defense. Once people start moving and shifting around, maybe they just check the one call. I don't know that. I haven't paid that much attention to them, but I know that they when you do see them play, they play a very complicated defense on some downs. So that could be an edge to the 49ers. The more you move people, better chance you got to bust a big run.
Yeah, one sneaky aspect of Kyle Juszczyk, which I love as a wrinkle for Kyle Shanahan this year, is they're using him so much in motion to try to confuse the picture and get different leverage and different angles and then sometimes that opens things up on the other side and the backside. And we saw that big run with, Kyle Juszczyk in motion going to the front side of the run and then Christian McCaffrey breaking off the backside of it. And all of a sudden there's a huge play because they're over pursuing the front side of the play. But with a fullback this day and age, and even as much as the 49ers use 21 personnel, which is 2 running backs, 1 tight end, he's Kyle Juszczyk's still not on the field that much. So Kyle Shanahan's kind of realizing, when Juszczyk's out there, he's only out there about half the time. So he can basically run gassers in motion because he's going to get to rest more than all the rest of the guys. So instead of making Christian McCaffrey or George Kittle or the wide receivers do the motion, let's have Kyle Juszczyk, who's going to rest more often. He's only out there half the time. Let's use him in motion on every play. I think that's like a secret little genius wrinkle from Kyle Shanahan, utilizing the guy who gets to rest in motion more often.
I had the same realization when I was watching Sunday Night Football, Brian, because the Sunday Night Football crew, Collinsworth, was doing this, breakdown of Christian or of Kyle Juszczyk and how often the 49ers use him in motion, and they had this graphic up on the screen and all that, and the camera is showing Kyle Juszczyk as he's sprinting off the field and he's standing on the sidelines, and he's he hasn't, you look at the box score and he's done, seems like he's done not a lot in the game as far as trackable statistics, but then he's standing on the sideline. He's got hands on the hips. He's breathing all hard. You can see the breath, and he's, you're just kind of looking out there and thinking, I had the realization, this guy is busting his behind on every single play. And it's a special guy to have on your team, right? Like a guy who is just I will take on all the dirty work and I am never going to complain. And I am going to run as hard as I can on motions every single down. You don't get too many guys like that in the NFL. And I think Kyle Juszczyk, the offensive weapon, is you got to give him a tip of the cap because when the news came out this last offseason where he was very briefly let go from the team right before they brought him back, I was kind of like, man, this could be a bigger loss than you think. I don't know that you can just go find another Kyle Juszczyk out there. So he's a good guy to have. I'm glad he's on the 49ers.
Yeah, and on one hand, it's like, how much you want to pay a fullback? He's only on the field 40% of the time. But then he's like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to come back and I'll take less money. And then you start to look at it and you're like, yeah, you can't say no to that. You have to bring him back because of the value he provides there. And at some point, they're going to have to find a replacement for him. And I think it's probably going to have to be a H-back / tight end fullback type of a player. And so we'll see if Kyle Shanahan can develop that next guy who's the OW. But yeah, at this point, with the money he's making and how valuable he is and what he provides to the offense, it's really fun and really awesome that a really versatile, smart football player that maybe doesn't fit in one role as like a difference making player, except for the Pro Bowl roster, because he's got 10 straight, can find such a home like he has with the 49ers and Kyle Juszczyk.
Yeah, and one thing that I did want to point out before we get on out of here, Christian McCaffrey, these last 2 weeks, like we've talked a lot about Brock Purdy and the 10 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks and yada yada. I'm sitting here asking if he can do what Peyton Manning and Drew Brees did, for God's sakes. But Christian McCaffrey, we got to point out what this guy has done too, because I feel like I feel like we could do like a whole nother 30 minutes on this show about just what Christian McCaffrey has done these last 2 weeks. He has been averaging, and like you said, guy gets 400 touches, and what's he start doing against the Colts? 5.6 yards per carry. Against the Bears, 6.1 yards per carry. This was a guy who could not hit 4 yards per carry for like the first 8 weeks of the season. He could not run the ball with efficiency at all. And when you get 6.1 yards per carry on 23 attempts, 5.6 yards per carry on 21 attempts, that's a lot of yards on the ground, and he's still doing his damn thing in the pass game too. And so Christian McCaffrey, when he's going, obviously it's a symbiosis, right, of the offense. It's when one thing starts going, the other thing starts going too. And so when you're seeing Brock have the type of games that he's having, it opens the door for Christian McCaffrey to do his thing, and vice versa. When Christian McCaffrey's ripping off huge runs over the left side, biggest run of his season so far, and you had Austin Pleasance leading the way on the outside at the left tackle position, and he's doing, amazing things right now. He looks like he's running just as hard, if not harder, than he was at any point in time this season. Christian McCaffrey has been absolutely tearing it up lately, and if that continues, that just makes things that much easier for Brock to keep doing his damn thing. One more quick break here. On the other side, we will say goodbye and good luck to the 49ers this weekend. Brian, I know you got to go do another show, the man of many shows. If you got to jump out now, no problem. Dwayne and I can wrap it up. So thanks for all your contributions today, and we will see you next time.
See you, Brian.
See you guys.
And we will be right back here on the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. Welcome back to the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel, joined by Dwayne Board, 4-time Super Bowl champion, and our guy, Brian Peacock, who just had to leave just before we wrapped up this show. Brian's doing so many shows all the damn time. I have no idea how he juggles his schedule, man. I think my schedule's crazy sometimes. And then I talk to Brian. I'm like, dude, how many shows are you doing at one time, man? How do you, he's got teleportation powers or something. I'm not entirely sure how he makes it work, but he does. And we're grateful for his time here on the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. And that is about all the time that we got for you guys today. Dwayne, I just got one more question for you, man. How do you see it playing out on Saturday?
Well, it's going to be a tight game, and we hope it doesn't have to come down to a kick in the rain to win it. And I'm giving it to – I'm out, man. I'm not going to give it to nobody. Can it be a tie? What happens if it is a tie?
Oh, God, I didn't even think of that. I think the 49ers would still have the tiebreaker because
so there'll be a half game.
It's okay, I feel a little less anxious now. Man, that you just scared the hell out of me, Dwayne. I was like, oh, no, I didn't think of that scenario. Oh, man. But, no, I think the 49ers would still be okay in that situation. I'm going to go 49ers. It's chips all in. You're in prime time. I know it's Saturday. It's still a prime time game, 5:00 p.m. Pacific. And you got the Seahawks, the rival Seahawks. I hate the Seahawks. I know that from your era, Dwayne, that a lot of 49ers, especially, I think Ronnie Lott is leading the marching band for the I Hate the Rams parade. But I think for my generation, man, I cannot stand Seattle. I cannot stand the 12s. I cannot stand the Seahawks. And I think that Levi's is going to be loud, to say the least. I think that Levi's is going to be deafening for Seattle. I think that's going to make it really hard for their offense to operate. I think this offense has been sputtering lately. And I think that this defense right now, I know that they're really, really, really good, but I think that the 49ers offense might just be a little bit better. And so I'm going to go 49ers over the Seahawks in a close game. I'm going to say 27-24. 49ers win by a field goal. So we'll see how it breaks down on Saturday. But man, I'm excited for this one. This is, I mean, what more do you hope for when you start an NFL season? Like, just as a fan, like, you want this, man. Like, I would much rather have this scenario than like the 49ers going into the last week with everything wrapped up and we get to see, like Mac Jones come start a game again and everyone gets to rest. Give me the tense, give me the stressful situation. I want to see what happens when the chips are down. I want to see who rises to the occasion. I want to see who the better team is on Saturday, not Sunday this week. But let's see what happens, man, because this is what you live for as a football fan. This matchup right here, I'm excited. So with that, it's all the time that we got for you guys today here on the Locked On 49ers Squad show. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel, joined by Dwayne Board and our guy, Brian Peacock. And, I'm just excited for this game on Sunday. And the 49ers going to the playoffs either way. So this won't be, our last week of shows. We'll be doing shows until the 49ers season ends. So Dwayne, appreciate you, and appreciate all of you listeners out there, however you're getting the show, whether it is on YouTube or however you're getting your podcast. We appreciate you guys for tuning in, and we appreciate all you everydayers for sticking around for the entire episode, even the 11 extended minutes we gave you guys today. So shout out all you guys. If you aren't subscribed already, make sure you're subscribed however you're getting the show. For all of us on the Locked On 49ers Squad show, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Peace.
Peace.